Hi, I'm Sue Cameron. I have to confess, I keep asking Billy Stritch to marry me. It has gone on now for 5 or 6 years, and he keeps saying no. I understand, but I must keep asking. It's just one of those things. I have a visceral reaction when I see Billy. Billy is an extraordinary arranger, musical director, singer, entertainer in his own right. His career is blazing hot right now. Let's talk to Billy. Hi, Billy.
Hey Sue, how are you?
I am excellent. Thank you for doing this. It
Oh,
means so much. I really, really appreciate it.
it's my pleasure.
I'm going to try very hard not to ask you to marry me again. This
Okay.
this time, of course, it's on Zoom and we're recording it, but we'll just let that go. I accept life as it is.
I,
Uh,
you know, I adore you, my sweetheart.
I know, I
I can't
know. I you we just get it.
yeah, we do. We do.
Um, you were born in Texas, right?
I was.
Yes. So I was curious, what do you remember? Do you ever remember your first lullaby or anybody singing to you for the first time?
Wow, no one's ever asked me that before.
I was hoping so.
Yeah, my first lullaby. Well, I do remember. I don't really remember a lullaby. I do remember in the kindergarten graduation. There was a graduation. It was like the last day of kindergarten. It was like a little show, and I was younger. I was like a year younger than everyone. I was 4, and I
Mhm.
remember dancing with Melanie Woolley. That's a name I haven't thought of a long time. We did the Hokey Pokey, and I remember really dancing to the Hokey Pokey, and probably for a whole year driving everybody crazy with you put your right foot in,
That's fabulous. And I'm sure that's what uh, encouraged you to have a career because you started with the hokey pokey.
singing and dancing. That was it. That was
As,
it.
as
No bit.
we all did.
Yeah.
Who in your family was anyone in your family musically inclined?
Uh, Not especially. I mean, luckily we had the piano in the house. My mom's old piano from her mother. The music, as far as we can tell, probably if it comes from anywhere in my family, it comes from my mother's father, my grandfather, who passed away before I came along. But
Uh-huh.
and he was not a professional musician, but my mom always said that he could play anything by ear. He loved to do it at parties. He was kind of the life of the party that way. Loved to play the popular tunes of the day, and so he definitely had that ability. He did not, like I said, he did not do it professionally. I wish I would have known him, but that's the memory and that's the story that I've heard. Uh,
Uh-huh.
doesn't come from anywhere else. My siblings are not especially musical. My parents certainly are not. My dad couldn't carry a tune to save his life. I mean, in church, I remember singing hymns in church, and he would sing loud, but he would be as far away from the tune
Oh
as.
no.
And I remember me and my sisters being small and being so embarrassed. We were like, "Dad, be quiet! Don't sing so loud." And then when we were older, we would just laugh because he was making a joyful noise. That was it.
Right.
He
Absolutely.
in church, and I totally get it now. But when you're 5 and 6 years old, and it was embarrassing. But I miss him. I would give anything to hear him sing now. I mean, it's a great memory.
Did you have piano lessons as a child?
Did yeah, I started. Well, there was a piano teacher, an old German man who had come from the old country, and he was a concert pianist. And probably by the time I studied with him, he seemed like he was 90. He was probably in his mid 50s or something, but he was very dark, dour. And all the kids in my little town of Sugarland uh, studied with him. His name was Mr. Schwalbe. And my sisters, who were 4 years, my sister Susan's 4 years older, Beverly's 8 years older. There's like 4 years apart. They started piano lessons, and I was like 5 or 6, and I was starting to really show interest in the piano. So it was just easier for my parents to take us all, and we just have our lessons in a row. And I remember, he really was the old school and wanted me to learn the proper fingering and learn do the scales and all that stuff. And I could not have been less interested in that. but soon into it, he would play the songs that I was to learn in the books. I learned how to read the music, and then I would hear the songs, and then I would just kind of replicate it by ear. Sometimes not quite exactly right, but I was already kind of figuring it out that way. And it was very frustrating for him. And the other thing I remember is every spring he would have a big spring recital for all of his students. And so all of us had two piano pieces that we had to learn for the recital. And my sister had learned something by Clementi and was practicing it all the time. And then when she would finish practicing, I would go in and I would play it by ear better than playing it. And she would get so mad. She goes, "Mom, make him stop playing my piano piece." I mean, it's like they were already very frustrated that I was starting to surpass
Right.
them, certainly in the ability. So I think it turned them off of piano lessons forever. And soon after, the teacher said to my parents, "I can't teach your son. I cannot teach your son," because I was not doing it by his rules and by his
Right.
book. But my mom was hip enough to figure out that I had this ear for music. So we found the appropriate teachers who could develop that
Oh,
side.
that's really good.
Yeah.
Uh, do you, when you first started, do you have trouble with the bass clef?
Oh, yeah, I had trouble putting them both together, but I
Yes.
don't remember that being an issue for a long time. I had more trouble later singing and playing at the same time
Mhm.
when I was really starting to do that in high school, junior high and high school. But none of it really gave me a big problem. I know people do have that problem reading the bass clef,
Right.
reading the double clef, and putting it all together. And I got through that pretty quickly. I
Now,
mean, what really
go
was
ahead.
done for me were playing things in lots of accidentals and E flat and A flat and
Mm,
sharp keys and all that stuff. That was more daunting to me. But once my ear started to take over, that wasn't really an issue either. And I'm kind of known among other musicians, well, not known for it, but they're always commenting that, gosh, why are you playing that song in B, five sharps, And
mhm.
it's like, it just doesn't scare me off. And it's much more about where I can sing it, where it's good for me as a singer or the person I'm accompanying.
Right.
Yeah. So,
They are very lucky, people you accompany. We'll get into that.
right.
When I was a kid, and my mother, of course, forced me to take piano lessons, and I could play by the ear too, and I couldn't get anybody to understand it.
Right.
And I just said, "I want to quit. I want to quit." And my mother wouldn't let me. And so I went down to the basement and I got an axe. And I went and I stood on top of the piano with the axe. And I said, "Now will you let me quit?"
Wow. How
Yeah.
old were you then?
I, it took a lot to get through to my mother. So the axe worked.
How old were you then when you did that?
Probably around 10.
Wow, you knew you did not want to have those lessons.
I didn't want to have the lessons. I wanted to learn how to play the piano the way you did. I still fiddle around and I can do it by ear. It takes me a long time, but
Good.
I'm not good with those lines and notes.
I mean, luckily, when I told my parent, well, basically the teacher told them that he couldn't teach me anymore, and
Right.
I think I was 8 then. Uh, and they already knew that I was frustrated with it. So nobody forced me into it. But luckily, my mom did know that I had an ear. And so she kind of encouraged that. And she found me a fantastic teacher in Houston. I grew up in a suburb of Houston. She really did the research and found someone a pianist who had actually played on TV and
Mm,
had a name, and found out that he was taking students, of all ages. And so that really opened the door. And thank God that she kind of, had that foresight and that idea, and really
that's
encouraged.
great.
My parents were always very encouraging. They didn't quite understand it, but,
Right.
they loved that I did it.
But of course, you didn't threaten to chop the piano with an axe, so
No,
they might
no.
have been more cooperative because of that.
And
Right
by
now,
the
I'm working on major seventh chords. It's only going so, but
well,
I won't give up.
that was what that first really good teacher taught me was how to read what we call a lead sheet, which is just it's just a melody line, maybe the lyric, and then
Mhm.
above it it says C7 or G5
Right.
5 or something like that. So to look at those letters and those symbols and to actually know what that means and how to put it on the piano,
Mhm.
how to invert it in different ways, that was the next step for me. And
Right.
that opened all sorts of doors. And then, of course, I started doing it in talent shows and in school, and then it was a way for me to get some recognition, because I was not an athletic kid, I was not the smartest kid, but I was like, pretty soon it became apparent that I had this talent. And so once that started getting me some recognition and some attention, it was like, get out of the way, it's like
Of
I was
course.
hooked. Yeah. Yeah.
How old were you when you created an act for yourself?
Oh, an act. Well, I wouldn't call it an act. The first gigs that I had were when I was about 12, I guess, playing for weddings in our
Perfect.
community. I saved money and I bought a Fender Rhodes electric piano so that
Uh-huh.
I could be portable. And my parents were great. I would book these things for, play all afternoon, maybe $50. My God, I was rich. Play for weddings and different little events in the community. And then when I was 14, still in high school, obviously, I got a gig playing piano at the country club, Quail Valley Golf Club. I went in there and I auditioned one day. And by this point, I knew lots of songs by ear. I went and auditioned. They gave me the job playing 3 hours a day from 4 to 7, Monday through Friday, for the golfers, mostly the women golfers who came off the golf course. And the bar had a piano bar. It was beautiful. I remember it very well. And they would come in with their cocktails. And I quickly found out that if I learned their requests, that they would put money in the jar. So,
Ah.
so not only was I making, Sue, I was making $150 a week, $10 an hour, 15 hours.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic. And then
Yeah.
also making tip money. And God bless my parents. My mom would pick me up at school. School got out at 3:40. She would pick me up. She'd bring my clothes. I had like 4 or 5 little outfits, shirts with matching ties, and I would jump in the back seat, change into the clothes. She'd drop me off. I'd play my 3 hours, and my dad would pick me up at 7 and take me home. So it was mostly summer, but it did overlap into the school year because I generally would start in April and play like through October.
Mhm.
So, and then all through the summertime. And it was like getting that check, getting that encouragement. And your original question was, when did I put together my first act? It
Right.
wasn't an act, but I was learning tunes. I was learning the Gershwin songbook. I was learning the Cole Porter songbook, even then, because I was encouraged to learn these songs by these lady golfers mainly. They were oh, Billy baby, play night and day. The one I remember, Scotch and Soda, Scotch
Oh,
and Soda.
yes.
You're a gin. That This one lady would request that every day. So I would find a record or something, or find the sheet music, and I would learn these songs, and it was just great. So that was the beginning of putting together a repertoire. My first act. I played for all sorts of singers in high school and college, and I played in bands, for weddings and bar mitzvahs and that kind of thing.
Did you
And
ever play at a funeral?
a couple of times,
I knew it. I
I
just knew
would
it.
circuit. If there a few times I remember, if was someone in our church had passed away, and
Mhm.
I was playing church services by that point, so
Wonderful.
I would be requested to be the one to play. So generally for some older person that I knew, and but I didn't put myself out there as like
Right.
wedding funerals, but
Yeah. For
I,
funerals, call Billy. No,
yeah.
I know.
Uh,
What propelled you to go to New York?
Oh, I just, would see New York in movies. I would see New York on TV. I would see the images of New York. I was a big reader. I would read about New York, and certainly reading about Gershwin. I got hooked on Gershwin because my grandmother gave me the Gershwin songbook for my 11th birthday, I think,
Mm.
and I still have it on the shelf over there.
Oh,
And so I would read about, this guy, George Gershwin, who grew up in New York, for me, Broadway and all of that stuff. So I had a very different idea in my head of what it was. Uh, and the first trip I made to New York, I was, I think, 19, and it was very, very different than what I expected. First of all, I thought it was going to be big and sweeping, and we get into Manhattan, and everything's, as you know,
Yes.
jammed up in small streets. Everything's up this way, but it's very confined. My idea of Broadway theaters were like what you see in old movies, like big stages. Of course,
Hmm.
what you see in a movie that's supposedly taking place on a Broadway stage could never actually happen on a Broadway stage. So
Right.
I was amazed that the theaters were, for the most part, fairly small,
Were
because
you
I had heard,
scared? Were you
what?
scared when you first when you were you scared when you first went to New
Well,
York?
I mean, the first trip, I saved my money. I had been working in a piano bar. I think I was out of college for a year. I never finished college, but it was after my first year of college, I played a gig, and I saved all my money that I had made that summer to take my first trip. So I paid for the hotel. I paid for I saw 8 shows in a week, and in the course of that week, I mean, I was like this wide-eyed, oh God, New York. Remember, it was the time when those little gold ingots were really big,
Yes.
that they Credit Suisse on
Yes.
and a small one on a chain. Well, that got yanked off my neck on 8th Avenue one night.
Oh.
I got in a cab wreck one night. I Everybody said, put your valuables in the hotel safe. Whatever you do, put your traveler checks, but make sure it's in the hotel safe. Well, I lost the key to the hotel safe.
Oh no.
They had to drill that open. That cost money.
Yes.
So it's really kind of one of those, everything that could go wrong to a first time traveler to New York kind of did. I mean, I remember trying to get in the hotel, and, 4 questionable women right in front of the hotel were
Uh-huh.
all over me trying to get. And when I got back, and I knew to get away, and I got inside the lobby of the hotel, and they had gotten in my pocket and stole cash.
Wow.
It didn't keep me from wanting to go back. And
Right.
in fact, I had friends who had said, go to this club in the village, go tell them who you are. You're a friend of mine, go sit in. So every night after seeing a Broadway show, I would go down to the Five Oaks in the village and sit in and play and, do my songs. And I just knew that's where I eventually would live. I didn't end up moving to New York full time till quite a few years later, but I spent a lot of time in New York when I was in my 20s. So yeah, it didn't scare me like it should.
Mm,
Uh,
good.
yeah.
The
Hmm.
first time I went to New York, I was so scared. I was there on assignment for Teen Magazine to cover
Uh-huh.
the Cheetah Club. I
Uh-huh.
was so scared I couldn't eat. I could only eat a slice of pizza while standing on a corner. I mean, it was very strange. It was very overwhelming. I would like to now skip ahead to we know that you were playing, and Liza Minnelli found you, and we know that you became her conductor, and we now know that you are world renowned for doing your own shows, for doing the Carlisle with Jim Caruso, for doing Cast Party, now doing your own records, and to me, you're the new Mel Torme. Uh, but I wanted to know why, because the Purple Room is, as you know, in trouble. What live music means to you, and what the message it gives to the audience.
Well, it's almost hard to put that in words, but live music to me is such a creative force. It's such an energy that can't be replicated in any other way. The connection that a singer or musicians or performers of any ilk can make with an audience is a one moment in time. It's not something that can be come back. It's very special because it's in that moment. Anything can happen, especially in a club like the Purple Room. Truly anything can happen. It's the fine art of nightclub performance. And the first person that I ever saw do that was Marilyn May. Marilyn was, I suppose I knew her name growing up when I was younger because she was on Johnny Carson. But I remember she was coming into Houston. I must have been 18, and she was working in a club in Houston, and everybody said, you got to see Marilyn May. So I went one night. I couldn't believe it because I'd never seen anybody just stand in front of a trio and just sing and entertain and be funny. And and engage the audience, talk to the audience, and do that. And I was hooked, and I would go back night after night. I mean, I was stalking her basically. We laugh
Hmm.
about it now, but that was the moment that I really, for the first time, saw how incredibly special and unique live performance is. I had seen touring shows, broad touring shows of Broadway productions, so I was already hooked by the live performance aspect. But the singer
Right.
with the audience is something incredibly unique, and they're and having gone through this whole past year of performing basically to a camera, just looking at a light and performing to a camera, and knowing there are people out there watching, um, has made me very aware of how special when you don't have it. All of a sudden you realize how special it is and how we must not take it for granted. And Birdland in New York, which is my home base club, has been going through the same sort of thing by being closed all these months. They had a big fundraiser there. And one of the things I really try to make clear is that, once we are all able to go out again, which is coming soon now,
Hmm.
we're going to need these clubs. What's it all for if we don't have these wonderful venues open and ready to greet us with open arms and fantastic entertainment? So I think asking people to chip in now, to ensure that we have these venues in a few months' time is a very small thing to ask. If you love live performance, it's not a lot to ask. I mean, if it was a regular year, you'd be spending that money anyway, doing
Absolutely.
clubs once a month or however, so that's a good way to look at it. So to throw $100 or $50 or $500, I don't know, in Palm Springs there are people who are able to really really donate big time. No amount is too small or too large, but
Mhm.
if you love it like I do, it's very important just to get us through this hurdle right now, because we're all going to be able to be in the same room and laughing and enjoying the uniqueness of that one night, that one moment in time that can't ever be replicated. It's my lifeblood, and I think even for non-performers who love it, it's part of our life. It is part of what stimulates us to go forward in life, and to it makes for me it makes it all worthwhile. So I feel
Thanks.
very very passionate about it, as you can tell.
Yes, and I do too, as you know. And I also thank you for everything you said about the Purple Room and music, because it is so true and so crucial. But I want to do a personal thank you to you, because I remember a year ago when no one knew what was going on and we were all terrified and didn't understand anything. And you were the first person who went on and every week did a show every Thursday night, as you still do. And you had a drink that we all wanted to copy, and I would sit there and drink with you, and it calmed me down because I was really scared. So you helped me get through this, and I just want to tell you that I love you, and I thank you so much for doing everything that you do.
I love hearing that. We just had our very first anniversary show a couple nights ago, and we got a lot of very similar testimonials from loyal viewers like you, Sue, who have just said, you helped us get through some rough spots. And, we didn't even know like you said, we didn't know what was happening, but I just did it as a means for me to survive and to keep my creativity going. I don't know what I would have done without the internet and the ability to get my music out there in this
Mhm,
virtual way.
mhm.
And so I so appreciate you saying that. It means a lot to me. It
Thank
makes me
you.
very connected with all of you.
Absolutely. And again, I feel the same way. Thank you, thank you, thank you for just being you and talking to us.
Thank you for being you. I cannot wait to come back and
I
sing on the stage of the Purple Room. I cannot wait.
I can't wait till you come back and sing at the Purple Room. I can't wait. As a matter of fact, I think I'll make a call when I hang up. I don't need to make the call, believe me.
Great.
Everybody knows we want you there
And
daily.
that'll mean that I'll get to hug you too, baby.
Yay! Yes, fully vaxxed, like a
Yes.
dog. All
Yes.
right. Thank you, Billy.
All right, sweetheart.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.